Okay, hello, welcome back to the stream, everyone. Happy Monday morning. So yeah, today we're going to be continuing on with the new prototype that I started showing off over the weekend on Saturday. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this one. I think this one has a lot of potential, so probably going to spend this week doing as much work as I can on it, and then we'll see if I want to stick with it or go back to the multiplayer prototype or either of those things. So let's see here. So what is on the agenda? So what I've been doing this morning is I've been trying to add this alembic as a card to the game, and that is important because it's actually an odd shape. So up to this point I have only done rectangular cards, and this one is an L shape. So I'm basically updating the code to support that. But before I go too deep into those details, I want to remind everyone again that Gunforged is available for sale. So if you want to support my work, you can check it out and purchase it, or add it to your wish list if you like to purchase it if it goes on sale at a later point in time. But yeah, that's a great way to support me. It's a good way to get a fun game that you can play, kill a couple hours with. And also I have Udemy courses available for sale. So if you want to learn how to build a complete game in the Godot engine, I've got a C# course as well as a GD script course. So you can check those out. Okay, so background on this game again, before I get too deep into it, is that the idea of this game is that it's a sort of grid-based inventory management auto battler, where you have this grid here and you want to put your cards, your tiles, in a good spot to maximize your damage output. And you'll have things like minions, but you'll also have things like this incense here, which is a buff, which can buff adjacent minions. I gotta add a tag system eventually to make it even more, I think, complex. So you could have certain buffs that only apply to things with the minion tag, or so on and so forth. And then the other interesting thing about tags is that I want to, as you play the game, I want there to be like these dynamic abilities, like maybe a tag could get added to a card that typically doesn't have that tag, right? So you could add a minion tag to something that's not usually a minion, and then all of a sudden it can get all the buffs that minions can get, right? And same with like the minions, right? Having the minions gain the ability to get buffs from things that are typically not available on minions. So anyway, it's going to be like a roguelike formula. So you organize your board, you try to beat your AI opponent who also has a board, and you do that. You basically want to deplete their health bar before your health bar gets depleted, and the encounters will get progressively more difficult. And of course, there can be random encounters like events or shops or whatever else. So that's kind of the idea. I think there's a lot of promise, because I think I already can see a ton of like design room here to make the game really compelling. And the thing is that because it's a grid-based sort of auto battler game, it's really not all that complex in terms of the rule set. At least it hasn't been complex yet. So I'm just going to keep building it, and I'm going to see where this takes me. And I would run the game and show you what I have so far, but it's actually broken because I'm in the middle of doing something. But before I explain how all that's going, I'm going to go ahead and say hello to everyone. Hello, MyCoonDev, welcome. JCND, good to see you again. Do you plan on releasing any patches, fixes for Gunforge? Yeah, I have, there's nothing really to... The only patch that I would do would be like adding some new features, like people have requested auto firing, which I'm not sure I want to do. I might upgrade to Godot 4.4 for Gunforged. And then there's like one bug that appears to be an actual bug, which is the stats aren't being tracked properly in the Madness system. But yeah, I still have to think. But a lot of the stuff that people are requesting, I'm like, well, adding auto shooting to the game, for instance, it kind of defeats the purpose of the dual ammo mechanic. So that would basically just kind of like ruin that part of the game. I had one person post on the Steam forum yesterday, said, I'm refunding because it's a twin stick shooter. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you don't like twin stick shooters, I'm not going to make it into not a twin stick shooter, right? So yeah, I have to think about it still, but yeah, there's a good possibility that some patches or fixes will be coming. Hello, Christopher, welcome back. Is multiplayer games too hard for one who already released a small game on Steam? I worked with Godot for the past 2 years, but never got my feet on multiplayer games. Well, it depends on what kind of multiplayer game you're making. I would say a multiplayer action RPG, like the prototype I was making last week, is very difficult for basically just for like responsiveness reasons. Like, you want client-side prediction so that all the movement is responsive on the player's end, even if they have like a 100 millisecond ping. That greatly complicates things. But then, of course, like, just with all these things moving on screen, you got projectiles and enemies and all that stuff, like figuring out a good way to synchronize all that without using too much bandwidth, which can cause issues, is a big thing as well. But if you're doing like a card game, like an online card battler, that would be, I think, greatly simplified. A greatly simplified kind of multiplayer game to make. But I don't think, you should try it. Try it, make a prototype and see how it feels to you. Hello, Code Red, making an async online game. No, this is not online, it's just going to be a single player game. Just going to be a single player game, but yeah, it's heavily inspired by that. I played a little bit of that new game, The Bazaar, that came out, and I was like, ooh, I really like this. So I want to, and of course there are other auto battler kind of inventory management games like Backpack Hero, right? So I'm trying to like meld like elements of Backpack Hero and The Bazaar together, but then also obviously I need to make sure it's got its own unique identity. I think the way that I'm going to do that is So you got the auto battler cards, which can all buff each other, but there's a turn system like in the Bazaar, right? So in the Bazaar, it's like a timer, but in this, I'm calling it a turn system. And basically that just means like how many game ticks before something happens, right? So a skeleton might attack every 3 game ticks. And I call it a tick because it's like speed independent, right? Because I want to be able to have players able to accelerate the game so that the ticks happen faster. But yeah, every 3 turns, a skeleton will do something, and then kind of borrowing from Backpack Hero by being able to expand the grid at some points, or like maybe buff certain sections of the grid with certain like passive abilities or something like that. There's a lot of directions it can go, but yeah, I think I have a bunch of ideas to make this like stand out. I think the fact that it's single player auto battler is going to be kind of interesting. Hello, Polaris. Thank you. Brekheck, I love a good card game. Yes. I hope there are card booster packs for the extra dopamine hits. Yeah, I think I will do something like that. Like, obviously, I want there to be rewards, right? Like when you've beaten an encounter, like you should be able to get some kind of reward. Usually that's going to be in the form of like new cards, and then there's so many cool things I could do with this game, like, you know, oh, you get another skeleton, so like you can upgrade the skeleton with like to another tier. That's kind of borrowed from the Bazaar. But then I also want to be able to like have alchemy where you could take one card and mix it with another card, and they create a new card that has like some of the abilities of one and some of the abilities of the other. So you can create a card that isn't typically available from like the base game, if that makes sense. So like have an alchemy system, you can merge cards together and can create like these Frankenstein cards with all kinds of different abilities. I think that's going to be great for replayability too, because you could get like a really powerful card and another really powerful card and slam them together, and then like you might either create a dud of a card or you might create something that's like super powerful. There's all kinds of cool stuff to go on here. And yeah, I can already imagine how an alchemy system like that would work. Like you put the skeleton in there, and then you put like a viper in there. And so the viper has poison and the skeleton has whatever. And it mixes, it chooses like a random art for it, and then it chooses like the random stats to put on it. I think that could be super cool. And of course, if you have 2 vipers, you could merge them together, and you would keep the viper sort of format, which is like a 3x1 card, and then, you know, just like basically have a random selection of assortment of stats. The merge mechanic can really make it stand out. Yeah, and I think that works thematically too, because this is like a necromancer themed game, so it's like it's just going to be all about like alchemy and like merging these different monsters and creatures together. I don't want to make it too complex. Like I don't want to have to draw art for like all the monster combinations, but I think like the idea of alchemizing cards to create like brand new things that you typically wouldn't encounter is going to be super cool. Noita inspired. Yeah, like the wand crafting mechanic, yeah. Card forged, I see. Yes, we're going to call it card forged. But I think you can see why I'm pretty excited about this one. And the other huge benefit about this game is that it's much simpler to create, because there's like any animations are just going to be UI animations. It's all like turn-based, so like the flow of logic is very sensible, and I can do things in certain orders and have control over like which order things happen in. So yeah, I think I'm liking it. I'm liking it. So, but one of the big things that was giving me trouble was like UI stuff, which I will go over in just a second because I can't run the game right now. I'm actually going to debug this. So I have, because I have this odd-shaped alembic, which is an L shape, I have an automated system for matching up the card dimensions to whatever background is supposed to have. So for this L-shaped one, it's a 2x2, but it's missing the top right corner. And so now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to associate a list of occupied cells with a texture instead of just a dimension. Before, this was a dimension value, but now it has to be like an actual list of occupied cells, which I'm almost there, but I have to figure out what the heck is going on here. Did that break? Oh, this needs to be... I think that's why it was breaking. Okay. I'm just doing a bunch of string manipulation there on startup to get the proper things working. There we go. Okay. So here's the game as it currently exists. I can drop these skeletons in here, drop the Viper in there, drop the incense in there. Obviously the UI is very lacking, but one of the things that I was having difficulty with is because basically I have a 1280 by 720 render resolution, but I've also zoomed the camera in 4 times, 4x. So essentially this, the pixel resolution, or the pixel art is in, what is it, like 360 by 180, is that what it is? 360 by 180. No, that's not right. 320. 320 by 180. That's what it is. So it's 320 by 180 in terms of like the camera zoom, but then the game window actually has a 1280 by 720 resolution, and that's so that I can render UI, more UI elements, because I'm going to need that. But in terms of showing the stats on the cards, that was being a little bit tricky. So what I've done here is I've actually made it a little bit more subtle. I don't know how well you could see this on stream, but you can see that there's these dots here along the border, and those dots represent how much damage this thing does. So that does 2 damage every turn. And then when I click begin, these progress bars on the left-hand side of the border here, those are the turn progress. So as the turns progress, that's kind of like their progress, you know? And every time they execute, they apply their stats. But the tricky thing about that was that I have, you know, obviously some cards are taller than others. So like a skeleton, I can put that damage along the right side. But for a Viper, in order to have enough room as the damage scales, I had to put it along the bottom. So you can see that the Viper has a single red dot down here. That's how much damage it does. And of course, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that when you hover over an item, it will show like the basic item stats somewhere. I also want to add like a card inspection ability so you can see exactly all the effects that it has associated with it. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at now. But now I need to modify the alembic a bit. I need to modify my code a bit to support the alembic shape, because I believe the code that determines whether a thing can be placed on the grid or not is still using the dimension value and not the occupied cells value. But I'm going to go ahead and commit what I've got here. Make sure I didn't do anything too dumb here. The other thing that's cool about this occupied cell system is I could see the potential of creating like a meta card where you fuse 2 cards together and they become a single card unit. And that could be useful. That could be another type of alchemy too, where instead of alchemizing the cards and creating a new card that has some properties of each, you create a meta card that has all of the properties of both, and it's just like a huge like chunk, you know what I mean? So that has the disadvantage of like taking up way more space, so you have fewer options, like grid options, but being a card that has all of the elements of one thing and all the elements of another thing will allow you to just create like a super powerful, like, so you could have like a monster that's 2x2 and then attach like a buff to it that provides bonuses to adjacent items, and then you get the damage and the buff, and because it's a 2x2, or it'll end up being like a 3x3 or whatever, it now has a much greater adjacency bonus, right? There's more perimeter wherein you can provide that adjacency bonus. So yeah, I think it's going to be all about alchemizing and all about combining cards together and upgrading cards and like trying to create that ultimate card that's just unstoppable by doing your various alchemy and whatnot. I think that's going to be really cool. All right, so let's see. Initial work on supporting oddly shaped cards. Okay. It's fun to try to make bad cards into usable cards. Yeah. Hello, Dylan. Been watching you for a while, just never get to catch your streams live. Have you ever considered having people join to assist that are not really doing financial gain, but for hobbyist reasons? No, I probably will not do that. I like to... The reason I'm a solo developer is because I just like to do everything myself. So, but appreciate asking. 16:9, yes, indeed. Haven't touched multiplayer in Godot. Were the bandwidth limitations in the last prototype specific to Godot multiplayer? Do you think a low-level multiplayer framework will help alleviate that? No, I mean, I think the bandwidth, I mean, the libraries that I was using and Godot itself, they handle the kind of bandwidth optimization. It's just that with a multiplayer game with lots of stuff, you just have to be careful not to do anything too, like try not to synchronize too much data every frame. I don't think realistically it would be a problem in that multiplayer prototype, but that is something that you have to think about. Monster can be rotated. I'm not going to support that, no. Because that has a bunch of implications for like the art and all that stuff. I mean, maybe that could be a bonus, like maybe you could, through an event or something, rotate a card, but I wouldn't allow it just like as a free thing that you can do. Hello, Luca. This reminds me of Loop Hero's battle system. Interesting. I tried to play Loop Hero a little bit. I was not grabbed by it. Juicy content, yes. Loop Hero was great. I know a lot of people loved Loop Hero. You should add a pause and a way to change your strategy in the middle of a battle so you can fix. Yes. So that's the thing. Like the thing with something like the Bazaar is like it's a fire and forget, right? So like you optimize your deck and you can't even see the other players' layout before you encounter them. So in the Bazaar, it's basically just a matter of like you're just trying to create the most powerful board that you possibly can, but you don't really have any opportunities to counter the players that you encounter because it's you don't know what their builds are ahead of time. Whereas in the single player, what I want to do and what I'm going to do is you are going to be so there's this begin button here, right? It's ugly, but there's the begin button. And the reason that's there is because before the combat starts, I want the player to be able to reorganize their board, and they'll have an inventory too. Like you'll have an inventory where you can store extra cards. And so you can reorient or reorganize your board however you want before you start the encounter. But then I also want to add like a pause so you can freely reorganize your board. I have to find a way to balance that, I think, because I could see a situation where you put a bunch of your initial buffs on the board, you let those trigger, then you pause, and then you swap out all your things. And I'm not sure that I want to allow that because that could... I don't want players to feel compelled to have to like pause halfway through a combat encounter and like reorganize their entire board. I think that can get very kind of cumbersome. But being allowed to make minor adjustments to your board in response to the enemy. The other thing I was thinking is, okay, maybe the player can't change their board in the middle of an encounter, but maybe instead of like a roguelike where once you die the run is over, maybe you could have a sort of lives system, right? So you start off with like 3 lives or whatever. You have to go forward with this encounter. If you die, you get to try the encounter again as long as you have lives remaining. So I think I like that system better because it doesn't punish you for not appropriate. It doesn't punish you immediately for not appropriating responding to the AI's board. And it gives you an opportunity to see, okay, I lost because this enemy board thing triggered and I need to be able to counter that. So I'm going to change my board and try the encounter again. And then of course, that's just another thing that you can earn while you're doing the run. You can earn the ability to, sorry, I'm just looking at something. You can earn the ability to, gain more lives, right? So I think I do understand the concern of like you obviously don't want to just lose the run if you just failed to respond to the board because it's kind of hard to tell ahead of time, but I also don't want to make it so that it becomes mandatory to pause halfway through the encounter and like swap out your board. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. How do you plan on making modular abilities? I'm curious about the architecture. Yeah, so the idea is that, I'm just basically, I have these card abilities here And these card abilities are just very, very narrow. They extend from base card ability. When the ability triggers, there's an ability. The way that I have it right now is that the item, the card, has a turn counter, and when the turn counter fills up to 100%, it executes all of the abilities. And so that simplifies things pretty well, because then all I need to do is just maintain a list of abilities on the card and then call execute on all of them. And I pass in this execution context, and the execution context just has everything that I need to be able to accomplish what the ability is trying to accomplish. So there's like the target board, and then the board inventory, so I can check like which cards are adjacent and such. So if I look at like this speed ability here, you can see that when I call execute, it gets the adjacent cards to this card, and that is just automatic based on the card dimensions. And then well, in the speed case, it just triggers the turn tick again, because speed, when speed triggers, it reduces the turn counter of all the adjacent cards by 1 turn, and so it just hooks into that turn tick again to decrement that turn cooldown for any adjacent things. So anyway, maybe that's too in the weeds, but yeah, basically it's just a list of abilities and they all execute when the card executes. So yeah. Hi, what happened to the multiplayer prototyping? I'm in a situation where I have enough time to make one game this year, basically, and so I'm just trying to make a good decision about what I spend my year or my next 8 months working on. So I don't want to commit to something, especially if I have another idea. So I'm in a prototyping phase right now, and just trying to figure out what I want to work on for the year. What about if the cards were removed each time you lose and you just have less cards to work with? That is an interesting idea. You could potentially you could have your build bricked that way, though. Another option, well, let me think. Yeah, I don't know. How's my beautiful teacher today? Ariane, thank you. I'm doing well, thank you. Welcome back to the stream. Okay, so anyway, so this stuff in here, so this board inventory component, this basically tells me where all the cards are on a given board. And you could see in here that, let's see, for each var cell, get card occupied cells. Yeah, so I think there's this board component. So card occupied cells. So in this, try place card at position. So we got to modify this can place card at position. So this is using the card stats dimensions. I think what I need to do instead is this needs to now use a different thing. So for each var occupied cell in card stats dot base card, card occupied cells. So now I have a list of specific vector2i's that the card occupies. And then what I can do, so yeah, so this would be an offset now to position. So var check position. So I can copy this. This check position is going to be now, it's going to be the position that I'm trying to check plus the occupied cell. If available grid cells contains position, what are my available grid cells? Okay, I'm not sure that I like that, but anyway. Get card at cell check position. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so all that can go away. So basically anywhere that I'm using dimensions needs to go. Get card occupied cells. Let's see. I wonder if I should store a root position on the card. I guess it doesn't matter. Dimensions. So here, try place card at position. So clear occupied cells, get card occupied cells. So this is just wrong. Oh no, that's fine. No, that's fine. I'm using, the language that I'm using is not that great, but anyway. So then I'm going to do something similar here. For each var occupied cell and card stats occupied cells, this is going to be occupied cell plus position. Is that it? Okay, let's see if it works. So let's go to my run manager here, and we're going to give the player a, let's take out the Viper and let's put in Alembic, and let's see if that works. So if I did everything correctly, I should be able to put like an incense in the top right corner of the Alembic. So let's take, no, let's take this, put it there. This needs to be bigger. Go bigger. Okay. No. Okay, there we go. See if this works. Okay, it didn't work. Oh, it didn't work because, well, there's a couple of issues here. Firstly, when I go to my card, this clickable area here, which is an area 2D, this clickable area is adding dimensions. So this actually needs to be for each var cell in card stats dot occupied cells. And then we can take this shape and put it in there. Okay, and then this is cell times that. Okay, so let's see if debug visible collision shapes. Let's just make sure that that has a proper collision now. I think it does. So put that there. Oh yes, that is working. I haven't modified the incense yet. So I actually, what I did, is that right? Did I do something wrong here? Hold on a second. Oh, did I do something wrong? Shoot. I think I did something wrong with respect to the grid layout here. This alembic is 1 pixel too tall. Is it 1 pixel too tall? It's also 1 pixel too wide. Ooh, yikes. Okay, I need to fix that. I need to fix that. So let's see, open file. Oh wait, this here. Okay, so this actually needs to be up 1, oops. Gee dang it. Up 1 to the right 1. Okay. I increased the grid size. The grid size was 60 by 16. I increased it to 18 by 18 just to give myself a little bit of room that I need. Sprite, canvas size. So this needs to be 37. Is that right? 37 by 37. I'm kind of not sure why that's correct. I don't remember what I was doing. Background. Let's look at the 1 by 2. So if this should be... Is this going to be 18? Huh? 18. Maybe I should look at the Viper instead. 3 by 1. So what is this? 54 by 18. What am I doing wrong here? How tall is this? 18 by 36. Why is the alembic not correct then? Hold on a second. This should be... Oh, wait a minute. That's because I did my math wrong. Oh. Oops. This should be 36. I don't know why it's 38. Okay. Okay, I think I majorly messed this up. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Move that over. What in the world did I do here? I don't know what I did. I'm gonna have to redraw the alembic slightly, I think. That's all right. That's all right. That's how it goes sometimes, you know? Okay, so this should be 38 by 30, or 36 by 36. Okay, sprite crop. Save that. And now I gotta figure out what to do about this alembic here. So let me redraw it as necessary. So yeah. I think that's okay. This is actually okay here. Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, so just a minor tweak here. Grid settings. I can't believe I messed this up so bad. What was I doing? What was I doing? Okay, let's just see if this all works now. Hello, Tetra Sloth. I've been wanting to build an RPG for a while now, but I've really been struggling with it. Inspiration, and ChatGPT keeps giving me the same uninspired story over and over again. Yeah, that's been my experience with ChatGPT too. It's just I think by definition, the LLMs are just like, they're not going to be very inspired because, like, if you think about it, they're trained on like all of the text data that's available on the internet, and if you average all of the text data together, then what you're going to get is average output, right? Which is great when you're trying to figure out an answer to a common question, but when you're trying to do something unique, I don't know if LLMs are very capable of doing that. But what you can do is maybe with some clever prompting, it can jog some ideas. Computer science student Striver Bat. Very nice. Thank you for your great Udemy course. It's been the jumping off point into Godot. You're great and straightforward instructor. You're doing great for all of us starters and intermediates. Thank you. That's very nice. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Hori Portier, welcome back. Great to see you again. Okay, let's see if this alembic works now. So let's see. Okay, so now it's fitting snugly into that grid. Is that correct now? Why does that still look wrong? Oh, I guess it's not wrong. Okay, anyway, I should be able to put this one by one here now. Excellent. So you can see I can put that one by one there. I can put this here. I shouldn't be able to put that over any of the occupied cells though. And I should be able to move this up if I want, put that there. But now I can't put the skeleton. So if I had a viper, let's get rid of one of the skeletons and add a viper here. Viper is such a cool word. Why is it such a cool word? Viper. If I was like 13 years old, I would demand that all of my friends call me that. All right, so let's see. Why does this look incorrect here? I think I need to update the one by one if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, so now we can get everything all packed in like that. It looks very nice. And then the alembic has it has no properties, so it doesn't do anything. So we'll come up with maybe an interesting ability for the alembic. All of these abilities are subject to change. I'm just trying to throw a bunch of smorgasbord of like abilities and cards and whatnot, just so I can start to get a handle on like how the game is feeling. But anything that I'm building right now is obviously subject to change. But Hyper Viper, yeah. So there's all kinds of stuff I can do. I mean, I can add shields, I can add healing, I can add fire damage, poison damage. The other thing, one thing I don't like about the Bazaar is that there's things inside of that game where it's like, So when you're playing the Bazaar, you can have items that can slow other like enemy items, and slow just slows down their charge time for a little bit. But a lot of the items, it's just random. So it'll just randomly slow an item that it chooses. And I don't like that. I'll definitely want to make this game a little bit more deterministic. So what I would do is if I were to add like a slow or a halt or like a reset of the turn progress, I would make it reset the item that is like closest to executing. You know what I mean? Because then it's like deterministic, and you can plan around that a little bit better, right? So just a random thought that I had. One thing that's bothering me is that turn progress bar is not correct. Card UI, this turn progress bar here, I think it needs to have another margin container. Ignore, put the turn progress bar in there, make this unique. This theme overrides constants, margin top. I think I need to do 1. Okay, let's see. I think I might need to do even more. Let's see, 2. There we go. I want that little curve right there. I don't know if you can see that. It's very small, but I wanted that corner to be preserved there. Also, there's some flickering happening here. I don't know why that's happening. That's very annoying, but... All right, let's figure out what we can do for the alembic now that I've... Now I can officially support oddly shaped cards that are not rectangles or squares. But, you know, a square is a rectangle. So now that I've got that in place, yeah, we can just keep making new stuff. And I still have to get, obviously, the proper game flow working. And I want to add juice sooner rather than later, because I think that's going to be a huge boost to how fun the game feels. So adding animations and like do a proper health bar art that's kind of like in this style. Lots of stuff to do. Lots of stuff to do. Okay, so that's fixed. Let's figure out what we want to do with the alembic. So the alembic could maybe... Could also do something interesting, like have items that consume the current turn count of adjacent things to buff something else. MVC2 callback. I don't know what that is. Is that Metal Gear? No, it's not. I think I remember saying that after you're done with Going Forward to move on to another project, you would go back to using GDScript instead of C#. What changed? I have really bad memory. Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is, like, I just have so many nice, like, C# utilities that I like to use that just improve my workflow quite a bit. And also, yeah, I make such heavy use of abstract classes and things like that. It just feels more natural, easier to follow. Juice is the best term lately, yeah, for sure. Did my background music stop again? Come on, YouTube. Are you serious? Hold on, give me 1 second. YouTube just like will randomly pause the background music that I have. It's very annoying. Anyway, it's back. Marvel versus Capcom. Oh, I see. I see. Any tips for OOP style programming? It's a good question. mean, I think there's like if you keep two big things in mind. I mean, go and read up on the solid principles. I think that those are a good place to start. I think the most important one being like the single responsibility principle. All of your classes should do one thing. Now that's not like it's hard to define what one thing means, but I think it's a good guideline. So if all your classes do one thing, it becomes easy to understand what a class is doing. You want to keep side effects to a minimum, such that when you call a method, it's not causing something that the method does not indicate that it does. And also, you know, have a really good understanding of polymorphism, things like that. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I can come up with better tips than that. I think, yeah, look at the solid principles, have a good understanding of polymorphism, and that would be a great starting point, I think. Struggling with events versus direct call my project. Yeah, I don't know. It's highly situational, right? I think you should use an event when you have an unknown number of consumers. So if you have something that you don't know how many things need to know about something happening, that's when an event becomes useful. But you can do direct calls if you don't have that situation. I think that's a good way of thinking about it. Like events and, you know, in conjunction, I guess, like Godot signals more particularly, those are good when you just have like an unknown number of consumers or an unknown single consumer, right? Like you know that you're going to have at least one thing that's listening to it, but you don't know what that thing is, right? It could be a health component, it could be an enemy attack, it could be anything. So those are good places to use the more generalized, the more generic, like, here's an event, now handle it however you want, everyone. Hello, Damien. Welcome back. Okay, so we got to figure out what to give the alembic. I'm already out of ideas. No, I have plenty of ideas. It's just trying to come up with something that's thematic for the alembic at this point is kind of difficult. So I think what I'll do is I'll just try to do something interesting. What I'll do is I will have the alembic consume the turns of let's do something interesting. The alembic will consume the turns of the items in its column and row, and then it will apply poison damage when it triggers based on how many turns it consumed. I have no way how I'm gonna I have no idea how I'm gonna communicate that, but I think it'll be interesting to just see if my system can support that or what I need to add to do that. So I have, what am I gonna call this? This is kind of an interesting problem though, because I could have turn consumption. Like turn consumption is a thing that's separate from like a poison damage. So there's like this ability then would actually have multiple components to it. It's got the turn consumption component, but then it's got the poison damage component to it. Yeah, see, it's these kinds of things which are like challenging how I'm approaching this. Because I could have, so there's a couple of ways to think about this. So I could have turn consumption as just like a general thing that a card can do. But then it's like, okay, what does it consume from? Does it consume from rows, columns, adjacent cards? Does it consume from cards, every card on the board that has a certain tag? Being able to configure that is going to be pretty important, I think. So what I could do along the line maybe is, so like this speed here, I think I need to break this up. So I need to have like What I'd probably do is have like a board query kind of class where I can define different types of board queries. And then I can couple a board query with a card ability. And then instead of the execute getting the adjacent cards, for instance here, it would just say, oh, my cards are going to be the result of whatever the board query returns. And then this is only responsible for applying speed to all those cards. So I probably need to fracture it out like that, and then I can compose things a little bit easier. So originally I was thinking, yeah, I'm gonna have to figure that out. Because there's a question too, like, okay, so with the alembic, what I want the alembic to do is consume the remaining turns of certain cards on the board, and then deal poison damage equal to that number that it's consumed, but then it needs to reset that number. Now, here's the question though. What happens if through an alchemical process you add a base poison damage to the alembic? You don't want that poison damage to go away when it triggers its other ability that's kind of like unrelated, right? So in that case, the poison shouldn't be merged because the poison becomes, it has like a base poison that it always does, but then it's got like this special poison that is done as a result of like something else. So I need a way of differentiating those things. It could be as simple as just creating a separate class here, like a temp poison or something. Because I basically need a way of like merging like abilities, right? So if I have 2 base poison and then through some kind of upgrade during the run, I say, oh, adds 3 poison damage, the result should be 5 poison, right? It should be 5 base poison. But if you're like dynamically as part of its turn, gathering a poison value and then expending it when it executes, that is obviously like a different thing, but it still needs to be combined, right? Because you could have multiple effects that all generate temporary poison until the turn executes. So yeah, this is already getting pretty tricky. This is already getting pretty tricky. I dropped by here for a few days and everything seems to have changed. Guy moves fast, yeah. Well, I'm doing this basically just as my job, so gotta do stuff, you know? So the question is, how complicated do I want to make this right now? I think the answer is, let's make it as complicated as possible. So I'm going to create a new temp poison. I think this is going to be the way to do it. So we create a new temp poison. Temp poison. Base card ability. Target board status component. Apply status. New. So we got I also created a status system. A poison status is the only status here. So I can apply statuses now. I have a framework for that. So anyway, we got this temp poison here. So let's do this. And I'm gonna need to start building out some UI for this stuff too, so I can actually see what's going on. Do I want to do a board query? Data ability card. Yeah, the question is, do I want to put the board query on the ability itself? The other thing is that some things just deal direct damage to the enemy board, but then some items are buff items that apply to your board. So the board query would not apply to... It would not apply to just direct damage stuff. So I've almost got two different things. I've got like an offensive ability and a sort of buff ability. You're game dev while you're doing boring math stuff. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, let's not worry about the board query stuff. Yeah, let's just try to get this poison working. So public int value. So what I'll do is I'll reset this value equals 0. This might be where I can use interfaces. Have like an iBoard queryable or something. Game deving is usually lots of boring math stuff, Sag, yeah. True. That's not that bad though. So the temp poison, the value goes down to 0. I need a way of incrementing this value. So let's go to my Alembic here. I need a turn consumer ability too. Shoot, how am I gonna do this? Oh man. Because it's not really an ability, that's just something that happens. Let's see this. Let's do this. Shoot. Dang it. Gee, dang it. Okay, let's just do this. Turn consumer. Oops. Turn consumer. We don't need an int value there. So execute, let's just get adjacent cards again for now, because that's really the only type of board query that I have available. So adjacent cards, for each var card in adjacent cards. So let's see, speed. So I've got, wait, card stats, turn cooldown. I'm gonna change this to, is this being used elsewhere? Oh, it's only being used in here. Okay, per turn cooldown remaining. Now let's do public int turn cooldown. I don't know, consumed. Private set. Actually, I'll just make this a derived value. So we'll do base card dot card definition resource dot turn cooldown minus turn cooldown remaining. So we'll just make that a derived value there. Now here's a problem. Is this a problem? Let me think. The ordering is going to be a problem now. Because if this ticks at the same exact time as... This could tick at the same exact time as like when its adjacent things are being executed, and then it becomes kind of unpredictable which one's going to execute first. Because if the adjacent card executes first, then it's going to have a 0 turn cooldown consumed. So they're executing at the same time as the question of like, should the alembic take priority and just consume all those turns? Or should the thing be allowed to execute and then the alembic does its thing after that? That's a good question. So what I'll need now is probably a just separate tick events. So the unfortunate thing is that executabilities I need like a life cycle. So this would be okay. Let's do one thing at a time here. To do this needs to happen after the normal execution of things. Okay, so anyway. So I needed some way of when the turn, is this a, no. This is already getting difficult. But anyway, let's do, actually I can just do this. Var turn, no I can't. Var turns consumed is equal to 0. For each var card and adjacent cards, I'm going to say cards, or turns consumed plus equals card dot turn cooldown consumed. So I think that's right. But now we need to reset that card. So let's go to my card here. Where is that? There's a reset here. Emit signal turn cooldown changed. So let's do reset cooldown. We'll just make that explicit. I think I can just do that. Card.reset cooldown. Okay. So the problem now is I need a way of getting this turns consumed number out so that it can be used by something else. I could do it with just like a basic callback. So I could do like action int consumption callback. Private action int consumption callback is equal to consumption callback. And then in here, what I would do is consumption callback dot invoke. Or I don't need to do that. I can just do this. So we can add a callback, and then in my Alembic script, the way that this would work is I would take this and I would say abilities dot add new turn consumer. Maybe I should actually pass in. This is not going to be good either. Anyway. Yeah, this needs to happen. Oh my gosh. This needs to happen within an execution callback too. Gee dang it. What if I did this? Var temp poison is equal to new temp poison. Let's just start off with 0. Abilities. Abilities.add temp poison. In the callback here, temp poison public void set value value equals val, set value to turns consumed, and then I want to do temp poison dot execute, but I need the callback. This is I mean, I could do something messy like this. I need to think about a better way of architecting this, I think. But I can just pass in the execution context. So I could say temp poison execute. This becomes context. And then I can do execute context. So whenever this turn consumer triggers, it's going to pass along the context as well as the turns that it consumed. It's going to set the value of the temp poison. Then it's going to execute it, which is going to apply that poison status immediately and set the value back to 0. So I'm going to do this. gd.print consumed turns. So this, I mean, I think this is going to work from a technical standpoint, but the problem is I need to be able to, I need to be able to, I need to be able to generate a description for the card. This kind of makes that difficult. Because the turn consumer, I need to figure, yeah, I just need to figure it out. All right, well, that's a problem for another day. It says execute temp poison, gd.print, applying execution, applying value poison. Okay. I don't know why I would add this abilities there. Okay, well, let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens. Fortunately, Godot still can't get nodes by interface. Really? You can't do that? You can't do like, or you mean like the built-in get node methods? Hello, Pragyan. Welcome back. All right, let's see what happens. Boom. Why does it seem like it's not working? Oh, I think I know why. Do I know why? Do I know why? Oh, it's because it's not happening after... Yeah, so this goes back to the life cycle I was talking about. So I need this tick to happen... So when it ticks at the same time... Wait, why was it... I think this is what I mean by the ordering being weird. I need this to tick after the execution. Yeah, so do you see how it's always going back to 1? I think the skeleton's on 3 turns. So that's always going back to 1. And I think the reason that's happening is because the alembic is consuming the turns, but then the skeleton is ticking as well. Is that... Wait, is that what's happening? So if the alembic ticks first, the skeleton... Where's my turn executor? If the alembic ticks first, it's going to consume everything, and then it's going to tick the skeleton, right? So the skeleton is not doing its damage, so it's visually getting to the 3rd turn, but what's happening is the alembic is consuming all those turns, setting it down to 0, and then the skeleton is ticking immediately after that, so it's being set to 1. So this is where the life cycle comes in. So I need to, for certain things like the alembic, I need to be able to determine when that happens. Now the problem is, what happens if I have multiple things all happening at the same time? Like, what happens if I have multiple alembics? They should ideally... I mean, I guess in the case of the alembic, once an enemy gets consumed, it gets consumed, but... Well, I will cross that bridge when I get there. Let's do, let's do a post-turn tick. Card stats, card stats. I actually think I should split this up in multiple different ways. Let me think. What I should probably do is decrement all of the cooldowns of all of the cards in one stage, so that when I get to the actual ability execution stage, everything is either finished or still in progress of charging. Because right now, the way that I'm working through the cards is that if I've got 4 cards on the board and they all tick at the same time, the first card that gets processed is going to be ticked and then have its abilities executed. But if those abilities require on seeing if anything else is finished, then that's not going to work. So I think I need to update the cooldown state of everything on the board first, and then process the abilities based on whether the cooldown is finished. So that's so I need to create more life cycle methods in here, basically, so I have more control over that stuff. So I'm gonna think, let's see, okay, so let me commit what I have before I go and break something. This probably will have to change because I don't know how I'm going to generate a description for this. So now I've got like ability composition happening in here where I've got temp poison, and temp poison does not have to be created by a turn consumer. It could be created by something else. So I might need to have something like I just need to create a framework for like composing abilities, I think, and then doing that in such a way that it can generate descriptions for me as well. And that's going to be really important, especially as I get into like the, the alchemy kind of stuff that I was talking about earlier. So this is going to be, I mean, this is somewhat of a challenge here, this architectural design, but it can be done. It can be done. I just have to make sure not to make it a spaghetti mess. That's all. That's all. So I'm just moving relatively slowly, but that's fine. So basic alembic in place, but I think this is a really nice way of writing the code, is like come up with an ability that I want to support and just let that reveal all the problems of the current system and then address it as it comes. You can write your extension method, but I read article 1 point why it couldn't happen with the built-in method. Oh, I see, I gotcha. What is my best Godot game? Gunforge, for sure. Absolutely, which is available for purchase now on Steam. You can use that link below to purchase it if you're interested. Hello, Snupbill. Thank you so much for the IDR 10,000. I very much appreciate that. As always, thank you. It's good to see you again. And we've got the message yummers. Cool. All right, so I'm going to take a quick break. I need to refill my drink, but when I come back, I'm going to do this thing. So the couple things I want to do is I need lifecycle methods for the tick, so I have control over when the abilities execute. But I also need to make sure that all the current turn cooldowns are processed at the same time, so that when I get to the execution phase, the ability execution phase, all of the cooldown states are up to date for all the cards. So that's definitely something that I want to do. So I'll do that when I get back. In the meantime, check out the links below. Give me 2 minutes, I'll be right back, and we'll continue on with that work. Hello, thank you for your patience. Let's go ahead and, I'm back by the way, see. Let's go ahead and see what I can do here. So I want to decrement, or I want to decrement all the turn cooldowns first. So this now is going to have to change. So what I want to do is get rid of this is finished here. This no longer needs to return a bool. So we're just going to decrement the turn cooldown. None of this needs to happen here anyway. Public void reset cooldown if executed is finished equals turn cooldown remaining, yada yada yada. I should probably make this a little bit safer here in case I have abilities that decrement the turn cooldown like speed. If that applies multiple times to the same card, then what I probably want to do is I want to clamp this so that it can't go below 0. So let's do turn cooldown remaining is equal to mathf dot max of 0 and turn cooldown remaining -1. Okay, so we'll make sure that doesn't go below 0. We don't need to return that. Cool. So that will emit that signal. Reset cooldown if executed. We're going to reset this to, we're going to call reset cooldown here. Where is this being called? Oh, right. That's being called in the turn. Yeah, right. Okay. Reset cooldown if executed. Cool. All right. So now we go here. This should execute now. Let's do this. Public void is cooldown finished. We'll take this. Return turn cooldown remaining is equal to 0. Bool if is cooldown finished. Okay. So in the turn tick here, we're going to do if not cards. Excuse me. Card stats that is cooldown finished. We're just going to return out of that. Okay, so let's do a public. Do I want this to be public? I don't. Yes, I do. Okay, but let's do this. Private void cooldown tick. Var cards is equal to board inventory component get cards on board. What does this do? Oh, that's easy. Okay. For each var card and cards, we're going to do several loops here. So we're going to do cooldown tick. Card.decrement turn cooldown. Okay, and then we're going to have a post turn tick. Post turn tick. Let's rename this to execute tick abilities. This execute tick abilities here. Let's see. What do I want to do here? I think what I want to do is maybe have a... I'm thinking about creating an enum that tells me which lifecycle tick I want it to be in. Protected enum lifecycle tick. Enum tick post tick, something like that. Protected lifecycle tick enum lifecycle tick. Let's just do lifecycle tick enum dot tick, something like that. And then in my base card ability, oh wait, does that, oh wait, did I do this wrong? No, that's fine. Oh, this actually needs to be public. Protected set. So in my base card, when I execute tick abilities, I'm also going to have a public void execute post tick abilities. So for each var ability and abilities dot where x dot lifecycle tick is equal to base ability dot lifecycle tick enum dot tick. We'll copy this, except we'll do it here, post tick ability dot execute. We need the execution context. Okay, so they're roughly the same. I could even merge these into a single method that just takes a lifecycle tick. Maybe I'll do that. Private void execute abilities for lifecycle tick enum. Execute abilities for lifecycle tick, execution context, lifecycle tick enum dot post tick. Tick. Okay. So every ability is going to have a base lifecycle enum tick of tick, but what I can do in here is I'm actually going to, let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. Public turn consumer action execution context int consumption callback. Okay. This dot consumption callback is equal to consumption callback, and then we're going to do lifecycle tick is equal to lifecycle tick enum dot post tick. So we'll configure it in there. That should automatically work, I think. We'll see. We will see. Okay, so now my turn executor component. Execute post tick abilities. Okay, well, let's see if I broke anything. Have you ever tried to make Hearts of Iron for like Game and Godot? I have not, no. I'm using C#. Yeah, C#, yeah. Yes, I'm using C#. Yeah, I've never made like a grand strategy game. I think that would be very, very difficult as just not even just with Godot in particular, just as a genre. Hello, Mr. Belly. What's your opinion on Godot 4 C# as someone has released a commercial project with it? I love GDScript, but I want to try C# for its industry cred. Is it worth switching? Well, I would say I love it. I have no problems with it at all. I think it makes me a lot more productive. It makes me able to create systems that I can understand a little and follow a little bit easier. That said, I don't think the only reason that you should use C# is if you feel like it's going to make you more productive in some way, or it's going to be more comfortable to you. Or like if you want experience in C#, then that's a good way of getting some exposure. Although you should be aware that you know, the kind of C# scripting that you do in Godot is vastly different than the kind of enterprise like C# software that you'd build in a professional setting for like just like a software company. So you should keep that in mind as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you should choose C# for any reason other than you think that you'll enjoy it more than GDScript. So I can't really tell you if it's worth switching to it. All I can say is that I enjoy it. I've had no problems with it, and I think it's, yeah, perfectly fine. So hope that helps. Welcome to the stream, by the way. Turbo Shook. All right, let's see if this works. Begin. So this should consume. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, did I forget to? Yeah, I forgot to do something here. Post turn tick, cooldown tick. Right, so private void. So we got cooldown tick. Oh, I forgot to call the post turn tick. Post turn tick and private void post cooldown tick. Card.reset cooldown if executed. Okay. I forgot to do some things there, but let's see. I think that's working. Had some errors, but let's see. Put this here, so it should be consuming the cooldowns of both of these things. Look at that, and then applying poison damage. Ooh, look at that. So the ends up being that the Viper and the Skeleton never actually end up. They never actually end up attacking because the Alembic is always consuming their turns. Sweet. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Obviously, I don't want the Alembic to work that fast, though. It's got a turn cooldown of 2, so I'm going to turn this up to 5. And that's going to actually allow... So if it has a greater turn cooldown, it's actually going to allow these things to function sometimes. Sweet. That's super cool. So watch this. Then I could take the Incense, which just reduces the turn cooldown. Or it doesn't reduce the turn cooldown, it accelerates the turn cooldown. So if I take this, put this here, put that there, begin. So that's actually going to accelerate the generation. Oh, look at that. Oh, but the Alembic consumes all of it too. Wait, how much is the... Oh, the Incense also has a turn counter of 5. So is the Incense... I can't tell if the Incense... I think the Incense is functioning first because of the speed. Yeah, so that's the other thing, is that... How is speed actually working? So ideally, I wouldn't call turn tick here. Ideally, what I'd be able to do is... I almost need like another life cycle phase in here. I almost need another life cycle phase where I've got like a pre-cooldown tick. Oh, why? Might as well, you know? Why not? Private void, pre-cooldown tick. I think this is really the only way that I can effectively control the ordering of these things. So before the cooldown tick happens, I'm going to accelerate with speed. And the reason I need to do that is because this is currently happening on just the normal tick execution, which means I have the same problem. Also, I'm not entirely comfortable with calling turn tick from outside of the turn executor component. What I ideally should be doing is just modifying the turns remaining and then letting the turn executor component handle that. And so the way to handle that is that, let's see, decrement. Oh wait, but that's going to be a problem. Oh no, this is why I'm clamping it here. So you could see, so at the pre-cooldown tick, I have the speed ability, which decrements the turn cooldown. It could potentially decrement it to 0. Then decrement turn cooldown is going to be called, but it's going to be clamped because it's already been decremented properly. Oh wait, that's not going to work either. I need to know if the incense has been executed, which has to happen in this cooldown tick. So let me think. Wait, how is this working? Speed. Yeah, so it's when it's executing. Right, it's calling turn tick on the cards again. Oh, but that's not even going to work anymore because I removed the decrement turn counter from that. I see, okay. So maybe what I should do instead is just call the cooldown tick again. That's not going to work either. The ordering is very, very important here. If you aren't familiar with either GDScript or C#, then learn GDScript for Godot. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it's much... I think a lot of people who are new to programming, I've mentioned this before, but I think it's good repeating, is that, you know, people that are new to game development in general and also new to programming, like that's 2 hills that you have to climb at the same time. You have to learn how to build games using an engine, but then you also need to learn how to do programming. And if you try to learn game development and programming, and the programming language is a statically typed language, that's like almost 3 hills to climb. So you're doing 3 unknown things at the same time and trying to make it work, and it's just like too much. So I honestly think that trying to learn how to program from building a game is almost too much as well. But yeah, the fewer hills you put in front of yourself to climb, the easier time you're gonna have. So what am I doing? So I need to figure out how to make speed work now that I've fractured this all out. So let's think about this. Cooldown tick happens. That decrements the turn cooldowns for all the cards together. Nothing happens as a result of this decrement. It just turns the number down. Then, for all the cards, we execute the turn tick, and that's only if the card has its cooldown finished. Now, so this is the problem. Is this the problem? Yeah, so this is the problem. If I've got 4 cards on the board and the incense is the last card processed, if the incense triggers, it should immediately trigger any cards that it affects if the incense triggering causes their cooldowns to go down to 0, which is what I was doing here. Basically, I was just repeating the turn tick in the speed. Where is the speed? Just repeating the turn tick on the card that it affected in the adjacent card. And that, in the previous way of doing things, would decrement the tool turn counter and then execute the abilities. I wonder what I should, I wonder. If I should create a rerun lifecycle for cards method that just steps through the life cycles again, but with a subset of cards instead of. I think that might be the way to do it. So if I do this, public void run life cycle for cards. Let's do an IEnumerable card stats. Cards. We'll take all of these, paste it here. Then in the on turn tick, so the normal turn tick, we're going to say run lifecycle for cards. We'll get all these. I think that's the way to do it. Now I could end up in an infinite loop if I'm not careful. So I might need to like store a hash set of cards that have already had their life cycles reran or something, or I don't know if that's a genuine concern just yet, but I could see a situation in which I could have like multiple cooldown reduction items that are just infinitely causing a loop. But I mean, that might be fine because all that would happen is you would just instantly kill the enemy because you've set up a recursion. So there actually wouldn't be an infinite loop because I would stop the tick simulation as soon as you killed the enemy. The problem though is that what happens if the recursive loop is only applying like a poison status which doesn't take effect until the next step? I don't know, I'm probably thinking too far ahead, but there's definitely potential to end up with an infinite recursion here if I'm not careful. I could also set like a maximum recursion depth too, just as a quick fix to say, well, it can only rerun the life cycle like 3 times per card or whatever. I think maybe even just once per card would be fine. Just make it so that if you tried to set up a chain of like infinite recursion, it just wouldn't work. I wonder how other yeah. Interesting. I'm sure I'm going to forget about that, and like 3 months down the line, I'm going to hit a lockup, a soft lock. I'm going to be like, why is this happening? Anyway, don't fix what ain't broke. So now in the speed here, what I would do instead is I would just say execution context.turn executor component.run lifecycle for cards, adjacent cards. This is not super flexible because what happens if I want to reduce the cooldown by 2, for instance? But I'll just stick with this for now. Let's see if this works. Infinite recursion is a stack overflow error. Yeah. I mean, what is that? True infinities don't exist. At least in the material world. I think that's working. Oh, you know what the problem is though? Yeah, this turn consumer. I think what I need to do is only consume. The problem is this is happening post tick, but post tick has not reset. The post tick has not reset the cooldown yet. So I think what I need to do in the turn consumer here is I actually need to only consume the turns of things that are not finished. So .where x not x .is cooldown finished. So I don't want to consume, like, if it's at 0, that means that it's going to execute, which means I shouldn't count that. So I think that that's probably right. I think that's probably right. Let's see what happens. Get out of here. Blam. Blam. Is that right? Maybe I did resize the incense. I don't know. It looked weird to me. Anyway. So this should actually kill things a lot slower now. Yeah. So it actually can never consume the incense because they have the same turn cooldown. What I might do is I might maybe turn up the alembic here to 6. Just to give it a little bit of an offset there. Alembic. I also want to change it so that the alembic... Oh, I can't reorient these things. I want to change it so that the alembic doesn't do adjacent. I want to make it do columns and row. So this row here and this column here. So in this situation, it would only affect the Viper and the skeleton. But I still need to figure out how I want to do the board querying stuff. Not entirely sure how I want that to work. Oh, wait. The incense ended up... I think I need to add a tag system too. I want something like the incense to only affect minions. So there's a couple of things I could do next. I need to add like board querying capabilities, I think. That's looking pretty cool, though. I can already see it, like when I add effects and whatnot. Little animations and such. I think that's going to be very satisfying. Oh, that goes down there. That goes there. Begin. Cool. Nice. Okay, so either board querying abilities or what was the other thing I was going to do? Tags. Yeah, tags are going to be important. Tags are going to be important. Well, I guess those two things tie into each other, right? Being able to query the board, filtering on certain tags. So they're kind of related. Okay. Breakout life cycle. Okay, all right. Board querying. Let's think about that for a second here. So with the alembic, so this is the thing. So the turn consumer, that's just an ability. I need to be able to decide how I want this to be queried. So I think this is maybe where I would use an interface. Kind of putting this stuff, but let's do like board queryable, something like that. Public interface board queryable. Nope, that's wrong. IEnumerable card stats. Query board. Board inventory component. Board inventory component. Turn consumer. Board queryable. Implement interface. Oh, but the problem is yeah, I actually need to, no, this is not, I'm already doing this wrong. This turn consumer needs to be agnostic as to how it's querying the board. So I need to be able to tell it what kind of board query I want it to do. So how do I want to do that? How do I want to do that? I could either have like maybe an options class that has a bunch of parameters for how I want to query the board, like which tags I want to grab, which like geometric, or I guess geometric, yeah, like what the geometric relationship is between the card and the things that I want to query. So whether it's adjacent or whether it's in rows or diagonal or whatever. I don't think I'm going to do diagonal, but still. Potentially the radius. Do I want to do that? Do I want to create an options object that just contains the definition for how I want to query the board, and then just have a generic board inventory component method that takes in that options object and can determine how it wants to query the board based on that? Is that what I do? Is that going to work? I don't know if that's going to work. Let's see. Query options. So something like... Oh, the other thing is that there's like an orientation to this as well. It's gonna break. So there's an orientation. So if I want the alembic to... This is gonna be very strange. If I want the alembic to query the column and the row and affect everything that touches this row and everything that touches this column, I basically need to define the root cell from which that happens. Because, I mean, it's ambiguous, right? If I say query by row, does it go by row on this cell across? Or this cell across? I mean, it's the same row as this one, but same with the column, right? If I say query by column, does that mean from here up? So I almost need like a root cell. It's amazing how complex this has gotten in just a couple of, with just a couple of cards. Let me think. So probably we'll have to break this up into multiple query options, or maybe not. I don't know. Let's see. I mean, I could do something implicit, like I could say public vector2 query row root cell and make that nullable. Public vector2 query column root cell. Public bool query adjacent. And then there would be something in here like query tag filters. But I may want to filter that by the type of query, but I don't know. Let's see. Anyway, let's do this. Public card stats query options. Query options. Query options dot query column query row root cell. It's not equal to null. Let's see. So we've got to get adjacent cards. So public card stats, get cards in row, vector2i root cell. I'm going to rename this to valid grid cells because available implies something different. So valid grid cells. Get cards in row root cell. So what I would do is I would say for var x is equal to root cell. No. Yes. Root cell dot x. X is less than. Actually, this might need to be a while loop because the grid is not going to be a square or even a rectangle. It's not guaranteed to be, at least the way I'm thinking about it. So I might need to say var cell to check is equal to root cell while available valid grid cells dot contains cell to check. Say cell to check. Vector2i dot right. Get card at cell. Root cell. Or no. Cell to check. So var card at cell. What the heck? So I also need to be able to exclude itself, which is going to be a problem probably. Because like in my adjacent cards here, this 2 card stats, I'm making sure that the card at cell is not equal to the card stat that I'm querying from. The card that I'm querying from. So, yeah. Need a way of excluding that. I think what I would do is just maybe I'll do a hash set card stats exclusion set. and just filter it out after I do the query. I think that probably makes more sense. Then this can just take the execution context. Yeah, that'll work. So then what I would do here is I would return execution context.board inventory component.query. So I need to pass in my query options. Is it a good idea to do this? I don't know. Void set query options. Board inventory component.query options. Query options. Set out the new to be safe. Query options, or maybe not. Maybe I'll just leave it null so that I know it'll break when it tries to query. This dot query options is equal to query options. Okay. Return board inventory component dot query. Query options, and then the exclusion set is going to be the execution context dot card stats. Then in here, instead of doing adjacent cards, let's call it like affected cards. It's equal to query board, execution context. Okay, so now what I've done is I've just broken out, like, I can pass in any kind of query behavior into this turn consumer now. So it's not coupled to any particular type of query, and now I can use this iBoard queryable for basically any ability that I want. And I might even update the speed here too to do the same thing, but one thing at a time. So I've got the exclusion set here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say var maybe list card stats result, because I could have multiple queries going at once. So if query options query root cell not equal to null, so we can do this. Get cards in row, card at cell. So yeah, I'll just do this. Let's make this just return an IE enumerable. It's easier. Result.add. Return result. Might as well do the column. Get cards in column. Vector2i root cell. This is vector2i dot up. Okay. Result dot add range. Maybe I should make this a hash set. Just because it doesn't need to be ordered. So I'll just make it a hash set. So if it tries to add duplicates, I can do union with get cards in row, query options dot query root, query row root cell. That's hard to say. Dot value. Oh, this is a vector2. Vector2i. Okay. If query options dot query column root cell is not equal to null, result dot union with get cards in column, query options.query column root cell.value. If query options dot query adjacent result dot union with get adjacent cards. Maybe I should just... No, the thing about this is that this... I actually can't do that. Might have to change this. Let's see. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to change this. So the query options. Let's do public list vector2i query adjacent cells. Set that to empty by default. If query options.query adjacent cells.count is greater than 0. For each var cell in... Actually, I guess I don't even need to do that. Maybe I'll keep it just for explicit purposes. For each var query options.query adjacent cells. This is going to change now. We'll just make it all work based on a root cell. So this becomes vector2i root cell. Get card occupied cells. Yeah, I don't need that anymore. I don't need that anymore. Get card at cell. This is root cell plus neighbor. This... Get rid of that. This can be an I enumerable. Card stats. So, get adjacent cards. We'll pass in the cell. Query adjacent cells. Yeah, I think that's fine. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I think that's fine. Return result. Result dot accept exclusion set. I have no clue if this is going to work. Probably a bit late as normal. No worries, Rin. Welcome. Always good to see you. Well, let's see how badly I broke this. So this needs to extend iBoard queryable. This cards. Let's see, affected cards is equal to query board execution context. Okay. I wonder if I should just be using a default implementation for this. Oops, got this backwards. Okay. Oh, exclusion set. Can I set a default in here? I probably don't want to do that anyway. Yeah, I want to do execution context. Can I do... Was I mistaken in thinking that I can... Oh my goodness. Do a default implementation in interfaces? Can I do this? Oh, but I don't have... I'm assuming I can't put that. Yeah. Well, maybe I might want to switch to like... but if I use an abstract class, I'll have a huge chain of things. But this line is going to be the same every time in this query board here. So... I guess I'll just leave it for now. Okay, so now the reason I did all that is because now I'm separating the ability from its querying behavior, and the way I tie those together is I will do so far speed. So in my instance, I'll say new speed 1 speed.set query options new board inventory component query options, and we're gonna do so adjacent. Do I have the card definition resource? Yeah. Oh, but I don't have the... This is... No, this is bad. I don't have the active position of the card for querying. The board inventory component. Okay. Yeah, this is the problem. I don't have the position of the card in here. In the grid, anyway. What am I going to do? I think it makes sense to have the query operating off of what I call root cells, which is basically just like the cell within the card. So if it's a 1x1 card, regardless of its position on the grid, its root cell would be 0, 0 because it's a single cell. If it was a 2x1, then I could have a root position of 1, 0. And so that's agnostic of where it's at in the grid. So the board inventory component should ideally be able to know which card is querying the board and then apply the offsets as necessary. Because these abilities, or this like incense in here, like that's just defining how the incense card works. It doesn't necessarily, it shouldn't really have any game state stuff inside of it. Like what position I'm at. All of the game state gets passed in the execution context. So one thing that I could do is I could, well, yeah, I guess I do have that information, don't I? So in my speed here, this iBoard queryable execution context. Yeah, so if I do like card stats for card, so this is a query for card, then in here I pass in the execution context dot card stats. But now I kind of need like a top left position. I need to store that somehow. Because the root cell is going to be expressed as an offset. So if my instance is in the middle of the board, then I should take that middle of the board position and add whatever root cell I'm querying from the card itself, which would be 0 in that case. But for the alembic here, so this top left cell would be what, 0, 1. So that's the top left cell. And then if I want to query a row based on this one, so this offset is 1, 1, right? So I'd have to take 0, 1 plus 1, 1 and start the query from there going to the right for the row. So I need to have that information stored in the board inventory component here. I already have this hash set of cards on the board. I already have this occupied cells. So maybe if I do dictionary, or no, let's do, yeah, dictionary card stats vector 2I card top left cells, something like that. Clear occupied cell, clear card occupied cells. Card top left cells dot remove card stats. Got to make sure that stays up to date as well. Try place card at position clear occupied cells. Card stats card occupied cells. Right. Is this always going to be... I think this is always going to be top left corner, the way that the loop is going. X0, Y0, yeah, so the top left cell should always be the first one in the list of occupied cells. So I can use that information. Board inventory component, let's see, what are we doing in here? So try place card at position, occupied cells, occupied cell position. So I'll probably change this. I equals 0, I is less than card stats, card occupied cells. Actually, I can just do this. Card top left cells, occupied, no. Oh, it would just be position. Yeah, that's easy. It would just be position. Oh, wrong way. Okay. So now when I say for card, card top left position is equal to for card. No. Card top left cells for card. So then this becomes card top left position plus that. Card top left position plus cell. Okay, so now my speed here, or my instance rather, set query options, query row root cell, no. This would be query adjacent cells equals vector 2.0. Why does that not work? You're not going to let me do that? Oh, vector 2.I. Vector 2. What? Goodness gracious. So that's how this instance will work. This one, execution context dot card stats. So now what's the other one? Oh, the alembic. So this turn consumer now. Grab this. Turn consumer dot set query options. new query, new board inventory component dot query options. Query row root cell. Is equal to new vector 2i. I should probably use, well, whatever. Query row, query column root cell. Okay, let's see how badly I broke things. Well, prototype, this is not the multiplayer. Yeah, this is a roguelike auto battler, card-based auto battler that I'm prototyping. All right, let's see if this works. So let's just try something simple here. Got a bug. Stop. Object reference not set to instance of object. What is not set to an instance of object? Ability? No, that's right. Is affected cards null? That shouldn't be null. Let's just go ahead and debug and we'll see. Do you see any downside of using C# with Godot than GDScript besides web export? No. No, I can't say that I do. I think that it's perfectly fine, especially for making, yeah, like you said, desktop games. Oh, do I need to... Maybe I will change this back to an array. I think the IEnumerable is just working a little bit weird there. So return result.accept. Create an array from that. And then in my iBoard queryable, this will return a card stats array. I think that will work. Speed. Okay. Let's see if that works. Let's see if that works, huh? Bam. Probably up the game speed a little bit. This goes faster, but we'll see. Still didn't work? Okay. Maybe there's something in if, oh yeah, there's a null card in here. Okay, so I didn't need to change all that, but that's all right. Card stats is null. Query. Get cards in row. What is this? Oh, get cards in row. Oh, yeah. I need to do this. Forgot to do a null check in this. Oops, my bad. I think that should work, but now I'm kind of want to... Well, I'll just keep it. It's fine. Did you run into any issues updating to 4.4? Did you start this project on 4.4? Yeah, I haven't updated any mature projects to 4.4. I started this one and the multiplayer prototype basically. Well, I guess I didn't technically start the multiplayer prototype on 4.4, but I was pretty early in development on that one. So yeah, haven't had any problems. It's working well. But yeah, I didn't update any mature projects, like I said. Nice. Okay, so I think that's working. That board querying is working. Let's see. So now I want to try another thing. So if I put this here and I put that there and I put the Viper there, it should work for both of those. Nice. Okay, now I just need to make sure that the incense works. Nope, it doesn't. It doesn't work. It's probably the same issue, right? Oh, did I forget to set... Oh, maybe I didn't set the query options. No, I did, didn't I? Set query options. Query adjacent cells. It thinks this is null. Why? Why ever do you think it's null? Okay, well, let's go ahead and run this then. We'll see what's null in here. Okay, so it's null. Oh. I forgot to pass in the reference there. Okay. That'll fix it. That'll fix it. Let's see if this works. Boom, 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 boom. Begin. Okay, it appears to have done nothing. The good news is that the Alembic is not consuming the turns of this, which means that the row and column queries are working. But why is the adjacent query not working now? Query adjacent cells for each of our cell. Card top left position cell for each of our neighbor and neighbors. Is that not working? What is going on here? I guess what I'll do is I'll do another. Oh, this get adjacent. Oh, I'm not doing anything with this result. Oops. Results dot union with. That's why it's not working. Okay. I'm pretty confident that's going to fix it. So we should see the turns be accelerated. Boom, look at that. Is it accelerating the alembic as well? It is, look at that. Sweet. Haha, that's cool. All right, it's starting to take shape. I'm feeling pretty good about this board querying stuff. I think that that's a good way of doing it. So now I can use this speed in any context and I can just tell it at the moment of instantiation, like how I wanted to query the board. And then I can also modify it in the future. So if I ever wanted to change how an ability is queried, I could either create a new version of that or I could just call set query options and change it. And then of course the query options gives me the ability to in the future expand those options in terms of how that board is queried. So yeah, I think this is going to be great. Cool. Add board querying separate from abilities. So yeah, it's all about just composing these things, I think. And I've got the turn consumer here. Now what's going to be a nightmare though is generating descriptions for all these things in a nice programmatic fashion. Like being able to inspect or know the query options and have that modify an English description of like how the thing is actually working. I'm also probably going to have UI indicators when you hover over a card that will tell you which cards are going to be affected by the card that you're hovering over. I think that that's going to be relatively easy because this query board here is all it does is return a list of card stats, so I can just call this for every ability on the card and then use that to highlight things. So I think it's going in a good direction here. A lot of work to do still, but that's how it goes. In any case, that's going to be it for the stream. Went a little bit long today, 2.5 hours, so that was a good stream. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for being here. Very much appreciate it. Again, you can check out Gunforged. That's my newest game. That's linked in the description below. You could purchase that to support my work. You can also purchase one of my Udemy courses. Those are linked in the description below as well. There's a C# one and a GDScript one. And yeah, thanks to all the VOD watchers and lurkers out there as well. Very much appreciate that. And I will see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll be continuing on this prototype. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.